Hello YouTube, thank you very much for joining me. The title of this clip says it all, so let's just get right down to it, shall we? So tip number one, no pedals, no microphones, no mixing desks, no computers, laptops, tone studio, whatever that is, just plug in and play. Tip number two, stay vintage. So I can put this down just now. And by that I mean think thick tones, warm tones, creamy tones, and less of the harsh, brittle, thin or overly saturated sounds. So for me, I can just tip this up and let you see. That's Crunch Channel. I think it's adds thickness and adds warmth, and just sounds more vintage to me. I've got my gain usually always full up. To me that adds the thick creamy tone that I was talking about, and because it's fully up, not only do I get maximum thickness and creaminess, but there's enough gain there to keep me from having to use the heavier, less vintage channels like the lead and the brown channels. So that's full up. I've got my volume way high, a good 75%. More bass, as you can see, than middle or treble. So middle and treble is fairly low, bass definitely over 50%, something like 70%, keeps things nice and warm. I've got a little bit of booster on, not a lot, just probably 50% of the booster facility, but I've got it at stage 1, just the green. Again, I think it's more authentic sounding than the stage 2 and 3, that's the amber and red. I've got a tasteful amount of delay, again stage 1, and a tasteful amount of reverb, quite a lot of reverb, but again still in stage 1, all green there. Moving on to the presence, a little bit of presence. Because I'm always playing at house volume, I'm not in a band at the moment, so my master volume is fairly low, way lower than volume number 1, which goes against popular advice, but for me in the house that's the sweet spot. I think low master volume and high volume number 1. I'm always set to 0.5 watts. I've got it on standby at the moment, but 0.5 watts what I always play in. I never touch these tone setting buttons, don't even know what they do, so I just leave it in the default, so they're not illuminated and the word panel is blinking red, whatever that means. Tip number 3, very important. I usually set my amp to significantly louder than I need and then back off from that. So at full volume I've got this, and back off to 0, bringing in a little bit of tone. I'm often less than 50% on the tone to keep things warm. Depends on the guitar, of course. On this PRS I've got hardly any tone brought back in, just a little twist. Volume maybe up to give me 60% of what the guitar is capable of. So at 60%, if I play at this funny angle, 60%. And then full volume. So you get the picture, a bit like driving a powerful car on, you don't drive fast everywhere, but it's nice to know you've got the power when you need it. So here's 2 quick examples of what the tone pot can give me. Firstly on this Telecaster. And then on the second clip, we've got the PRS, but I've rolled the tone nearly all the way off to the other extreme of what we're doing on the Telecaster. And that gives me this lovely double cream kind of sound. And then there's the volume pop. By keeping to the 60% approach, you can do this kind of lingering, emotive, sustain thing by starting the note out at 50-60%, and as it starts to fade, don't let it fade, just keep on bringing in more and more volume, and it just fills the note out, like in this Les Paul clip. distorted distorted lead sound by just simply winding the volume back down to 60%, like in this Telecaster clip, to give back a bit of clarity to it makes swelling notes a hell of a lot easier. You know, my playing's full of these little swells, and so by having the 60% and more to go, it makes these swells a lot easier, like you'll see in this Stratocaster clip. Use the pots, it just gives you so much more to your playing, and I really do think it's a tone tip. So that's how I get hopefully good tone out the Katana, and of course it helps to have these wonderful guitars, all 5 of which could make a credible argument to be the best in the room, and that definitely helps. I've just been lucky over the course of my life and acquired them all, but they're just fantastic. So anyway, I hope this clip helps somebody out there with their Katana or with their general approach to playing. And happy practicing, and I'll see you on the next clip. Cheers.